Hey, so in this video, I'm going to give you my best advice on setting minimum and maximum prices. Now, this is such a basic fundamental for repricing and using Profit Protector Pro. Your two main goals here are ensuring you're setting pricing that obviously works for you and is also effective to have on that listing, because it means that a pricer can work to the very best of its abilities. So I'm going to give you as much info as I can here and give you the best advice that I know how. So minimum and maximum, right? There's a few things to consider when setting each one. Now, let's start with minimum and then we'll move on to maximum a little bit later on. So the minimum should always be a price that you are happy to sell at if it came to it. So I would advise that the minimum price is above your break even, because your break even, if you sell for that price, you're not making anything. You're not making a loss, but you're not making a profit either. Obviously, you don't want to set your minimum below the break even either. And that's why I would say it's handy to have your break even in Profit Protector Pro. So whether that is you having it auto calculated by PPP if you've got everything set up to automate that, or if you're getting that information from Buybot Pro, or if you're working out yourself, I would advise having your break even in there, because then you have that sort of do not cross threshold there for you to refer to whenever you come to Profit Protector Pro. And that can be seen if you were to download your inventory into a bulk inventory sheet, in case you're doing it that way. Or as I say, you can automate it, whatever it is that you want to do. I would personally say to have your break even there, just as that do not cross threshold. So have your minimum above your break even for sure, to ensure you are making a profit, and it should, as I say, be a minimum price that you are happy to sell at. Now, one reassuring thing that I can tell you about Profit Protector Pro is that it will never, ever, ever reprice outside your set minimum and maximum. Okay? There's several layers of strict coding in play to prevent this from being a thing. So you set these parameters and Profit Protector Pro will stick to pricing between the two. If it happens that the buy box goes below your minimum or above your maximum, it will move to either the minimum or the maximum and just stay there, because obviously it can't go outside those parameters. So you don't have to worry if the buy box is to move below your minimum. Obviously, if that was to be the case, I would say to reassess your minimum and see if it's something that you want to change. If you can't quite change it because it risks then, making you not very much profit at all, it might risk you selling for a loss or for your break even or whatever, I would say to give it a little bit of time, have a little bit of patience with it, and then just see what happens with the listing. Unfortunately, it would then be out of Profit Protector Pro's hands to go and scoop it up. You could potentially, at a push, risk it by setting the super aggressive strategy or the merchant fulfilled aggressive sales generator, depending on which fulfillment method you're going for. You could risk it by setting your minimum to accommodate for the buy box, use an aggressive strategy, and then hope that you're then able to scoop that up and bump the price. I'm going to highlight there that that is a risky play. It could be possible, but it might also not. You could win the buy box, but bumping it up, if you've got some tougher competitors, it might take a bit longer for that to happen. And in that time frame, you might end up making sales for a price that you're not really happy to sell with. So sometimes trying to win that buy box by whatever means necessary and being like completely 100% sales focused isn't always going to be the best thing. Because as I say, in that situation, you really do risk making sales at an undesirable price. So that is a possibility, yes. Would I personally advise it? Not really, but if you really, really wanted to, then you can do that thing. But as I say, my best advice would be to give it a bit of time, give it some patience, because these things can end up coming round whereby naturally the price then moves back up, or someone else is taking that risk and making that play for you, or if someone has significantly tanked that listing well beyond your parameters, they sell out, they sell for a loss, or they sell for the break even, or whatever it is they're doing by going for such a low price, and eventually the price floats back up. So give it a bit of time and hopefully it then realigns. And I find that quite a bit of the time as well, it does eventually float back up to being within your parameters if it does go significantly below. So that would be my advice for setting a minimum. And it's even more useful to have the notifications in Profit Protector Pro. If you want to know the full gist of what the notifications are, please refer to that video on the Profit Protector Pro YouTube channel. At this point in time of releasing this one, it's not too far behind from this video. So basically the notifications can alert you as to if anything does go below your minimum. You can see what items those are and then reassess your minimum. There's also a filter here, buy box below minimum, so you can easily just go ahead and change that if that was to happen. So just as a quick recap on minimum, it's got to be a price you're happy to sell at. It's got to accommodate for the buy box and obviously as well acknowledge your break even because you want to make some money still. And if the buy box does go below your minimum price, give it some time, see what happens, and it should hopefully float back up. If not, it's then down to you what it is that you want to do. It may take a bit longer to move back up. It might actually stay down a bit further. So then it's down to you what it is that you want to do. Do you want to recall that inventory? Do you want to take that risk of potentially lowering the price close to your break even or something like that to try and get it back up with a super aggressive strategy? It's entirely down to you what you want to do at that point. But give it some time first. Now let's move on to the max price. Now, the max price, why do we need one initially? That's the question that I get quite a bit of the time. And it would be great to just set no max price and have it reprice to a staggering amount. Unfortunately, that can't happen because Amazon will shut that down. They have in their heads what's called fair pricing. And so if you have a max price that is significantly higher and you reprice right up there, they will most likely send you a warning about that listing. They'll tell you that you can't do that. They can potentially take you off the listing. They can suppress the buy box, which ends up being quite a common thing with those kinds of scenarios. So suppress buy box is basically where they take away the buy box from that listing. And that basically means a customer then has to choose an individual from the list of sellers on Amazon to then buy from, okay? And obviously, if you've got a price that's right up there, I mean, they're more likely going to choose the person that's here rather than the person that's like all the way up there. So, don't set a max price too high. And yeah, you just don't want the warnings from Amazon. You don't want a suppressed buy box because the chances of sales then go and just fall down. And then even if you are in that competition to be chosen as an individual, as I say, who's going to choose the £104.99 item over the one that is like £40, £50, you know? Not many people are going to do that. So you got to think about those things with the max price. Now, if you're not sure then what to do with your max price because you don't then want to set it too high and have those things happen, here's my advice. Now, a good rule of thumb is to go a bit above the buy box. When I say a bit, I would say anywhere that is potentially, I mean, it really does depend per listing, so I can't give you an exact amount. I can give you a window and you can use that to help you. So I would say anywhere up to about 10, 15, 20 pounds above, 10, 15, $20 above, 10, 15, 20 euros above whatever currency you're working with. I would say that's a good rule of thumb. If you're not sure, I would start at the minimum one first and then potentially move it up, okay? I would start with that. I'd have it just a bit above the buy box to see what happens. I wouldn't go to the extreme of like setting it $50 above because I know that that will most likely result in a warning. I'd say sort of like the maximum you can get in a lot of cases is maybe 20 above, but I would advise sticking around the 5, 10, sort of like 15 kind of area. I would say that if you want to play it real safe, to start with the lowest option there, okay, maybe $5 above, potentially 10. And if it moves towards that max price, you can probably move it up a little bit more. If it achieves that max price, you can probably move it up a little bit more and work it like that. Yes, that will then require a little bit more manual input from your side, but it's better than having a suppressed buy box or being taken off the listing or whatever happens if you get loads of warnings about your max price. So use that kind of guideline and hopefully that helps, right? So 5, 10, 15 is your safe window, push maybe 20 in some cases, but I would say anything above that, you're really risking those max price alerts. And if you get them, I'd advise that you act on them as soon as you possibly can. Again, it really does vary per listing. So this is a bit of a feel around kind of thing. And unfortunately, I can't give an exact one just because of how different every listing is as a listing and also in Amazon's eyes. So just use that as a rough guideline and have a bit of a feel around. If you are really stuck, you can use BuyBot Pro or just the seller lists right here to see what the kind of higher pricing is on that listing. So in this case, you can see that there's people that are at the later end of what's the buy box right now. So it's 44. You can see that there are people at the sort of like later end of the 50s. I would say that that's okay. This might be pushing it a little bit, but this one is definitely pushing it a lot. So just because you see that one right there doesn't mean that that's then a good max price. Most likely they'll end up with high price alerts and things like that. So if you see a few people, like 2, maybe 3 sellers that have got the same kind of higher price range on that listing, then you can probably set something around that point and should be okay. If you just got like one straggler that's way out there with a super high price, that's probably not a good idea to set one that's the same as theirs. Look for where you've got a common higher pricing and use that, and you should be okay. So hopefully this advice helps you with setting your minimum and maximum prices. Thank you for watching.